Welcome to Belief, Being, and Beyond with your host, Granddaughter Crow.
Hey, witches and non-witches. My name is Jenny Seabell, and surprise, I've taken over your favorite show, Belief, Being, and Beyond today, to interview Granddaughter Crow. So, for those of you that don't know her, she's an author, a teacher, intuitive podcaster. She has classes right now. She's a creative. She's good to go to for advice. I know this personally. She's also known as Dr. Joy Gray, holding a doctorate in leadership. She's a proud member of the Navajo Nation and comes from a long line of spiritual leaders. She was raised in deep reverence for nature and spirit. Over the years, she's come to blend the foundation with academic insight, leadership principles, and the raw truth of life experience. She's the author of a bunch of books, and I'm going to name them all because I want to. So we have Journey of the Soul, Wisdom of the Natural World, that's a personal favorite, Belief, Being, and Beyond, Shamanism and Your Shadow. And today we're going to talk about her latest book, Hózhõ, which hopefully I said right, I've been practicing, which invites readers into transformation through authenticity, nature connection, and spiritual self-leadership. Everybody, welcome back, Dr. Joy Gray, Granddaughter Crow, to her own podcast.
Oh, it's so good to be back. I feel like I'm home. Oh, Jenny, thank you. You did that so well. Thanks for busting into my show. We may have to do some more collaboration. So
I think so.
keep that in mind.
Yeah, I
So
feel like
anyway,
we get along pretty well.
I think so too. I think so too. Yeah, Hózhõ. You said it right. For
Okay.
all of those people out
Yeah,
there,
let's break it down.
let's break it down. So the word Hózhõ is a Navajo word, and the best, most accurate way to describe what it's talking about is harmony, balance. If you know anything about like living mindful with Zen, it's kind of like a philosophy to find Hoshan and to live in it. So the word, in thinking of the title, and I'm like, this is Hoshan. I'm married to that word. This is what it's going to be. And then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, how many people are going to like get afraid of trying to say it? And I'm like, hey, let's educate ourselves
Yes.
in the English way of saying Hoshan. If you look at the book, you can see that it's Navajo in title. And if you guys are listening to this anywhere you get your podcast, you can feel free to jump over to the YouTube channel where I'm showing you. It actually has the letters of the Navajo Nation with that Hoshan. And so, this little thing, if you are a musician or read music, maybe this will make a little bit more sense to you. So it's ho, shi, and you got to stop. And so it looks like hose ho, right? It does. It
Yes,
looks
yes.
like hose ho. But at the end of the day, with that stop, it actually sounds in English like an N at the end. So you can literally just say ho shown.
Tone. Yeah, that's how you broke it down in the book, right? It's H-O dash, because you kind of like make a stop. S-H-O-W-N for
Yes.
everybody. So we're all learning how to say a new word today. We're learning a new word. Like this is really, I don't know, I think it's really exciting. I'm a word collector, so new word for everybody today.
Ho shown.
Okay, so this book comes out in May.
Yes.
And I got an advanced copy, which was really exciting. It's actually my first time getting an advanced copy. And I have been like really savoring it. For those people that don't have a copy yet, because didn't get an advanced one, it's really cool because you have journal prompts in here and you have different, like, actually love the journal prompts. And then you have exercises. And so it's not just like a philosophy book, it's an interactive book.
Absolutely. It's something that you work with it. It's not, that's one of the biggest things about Hózhõ and doing what I do and learning what it is that I'm doing is that it is not just a mental concept. It actually has to be embodied. And in order to embody it, I offer different exercises, journal prompts, exploration of self, empowerment of self. So that's why I put all of that in there. Yeah.
And then why this book at this time? Like what made you go, this is something that people could really use right now and I know exactly how to give that to them. Like what inspired you to do this book at this time?
It's really kind of interesting as books go. They're almost like children. They come out when they want to come out, looking the way that they want to come out. I mean, come on. But, the Hoshan really highlights a concept that I talk about, and I've talked about for decades in classes that I teach. If I teach a class on shamanism, I'm talking about the four bodies of existence. If I'm teaching a class on wisdom of the natural world, I'm talking about the four bodies of existence. If I'm teaching a class on shadow or writing a book on shadow, I talk about the four bodies of existence. And the four bodies of existence are the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, and the spiritual body. Now, I might be jumping ahead of you a little bit, but I have been talking about it so much that I thought that it was just widespread. This is the way that people think. Why can't why isn't everybody else talking about this concept? And then I really sat with it and I'm like, oh, maybe they don't know. Maybe I need to share with them the not only the philosophical lived way to experience it, but also a scientific backbone to it that shows how they can work together and everything. And in truth, I started writing this book years ago. In fact, I published another book in between me
Oh,
writing
wow.
this book and it coming out. I published Shamanism in Your Shadow. So this book has been a long time coming. And I think from an author's point of view, why it took so long was not only was it waiting for its right time, but it was waiting for me to be able to actually be raw enough, surrender enough to share this because I do a lot of lived experience in the book. And I think at this time it's very important because in the book we talk about listening to your own internal counsel and finding wisdom there, and that is always necessary, but hugely necessary in the world today when we get lost and we don't know who to listen to. Why not listen to yourself?
And that's the timing. There's so many people I think feeling what you just said, like lost. Not because of, anything personal, but there's a lot going on collectively in the world. There's a lot going on in the news. There's lots going on in politics, and it's hard not to feel lost. And so you have this practice that seems to really help you stay grounded and stay spiritual. And that's really cool. I wanted to read for everybody basically your little introduction or definition of the four bodies of existence. So you said there is a school of thought that we have four bodies of existence: the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, and the spiritual body. As a medicine woman or shaman, everything that I do is shaped by this school of thought. It is one of the ways that I see the world. The concept of the four bodies of existence is slightly different from thinking. I am a spirit that experiences emotions and thoughts housed with a physical body. Instead, my worldview is that each of these parts of self has a body. And that's new to me. Can you kind of talk about that with like that
Absolutely.
philosophy?
Absolutely. So, one of the things, we hear about it in spiritual communities, metaphysical communities, even in religious communities. I am a spirit. I have a body. I have emotions, which I got to keep under control, and I have thoughts. And I actually do believe that to be true. That model does work. This is a different lens to it. It is saying, that each of these is a body. And when you think of them as bodies, you realize, what does a body need? A body needs food. A body needs exercise. A body needs rest. A body needs, to grow. And when you go, fine, yeah, I understand that in my physical body, but when you start thinking about, wait, my mental body needs food, rest, and exercise. My emotional body might be tired or needs some good affirmations to strengthen it and needs to be around community to resonate and grow. When your spiritual body, when you realize that it's a body, you then also realize that it may have an age in a very interesting way. So, what I see with it is people new to a spiritual path, they are fresh. They look for wisdom. They have guides, the angels or whatever it is, the deities, the divine as it shows up to them in their exploration shows up so hardcore when they're first starting out. Everything turns magical. And then after about, I'd say about 2 years, they start going, wait, angels, you're supposed to be tying my shoes. And the spirit looks back at them and said, no, I was raising you to be a strong spirit in and of yourself. You're not a baby anymore. And some people, the ones who actually got into that spiritual path or religion, about 2 years after, they're like, I'm done. And it's like, hmm. And so that's another note with it. But then what happens in your spiritual path is that you grow, you learn how to light your own candles, you learn how to petition, the deities, you learn how to give thanks, and it becomes more of a responsibility to your own spirit in its growth until you actually keep growing. I don't know what the age is that you don't stop growing or that you stop growing, but you get older in spirit and you start understanding more and more. And it's not exactly the same as the physical body's model of aging, but it is very similar. And I could actually add that to your mental body. Some people are stunted at a certain age, your emotional body, And I mean, and we get to play with all of them because emotionally, sometimes I am that 4-year-old going, but what about my turn? And I do feel that, and I can express that, even though the emotional body needs to grow and mature as well. So putting a body around it allows us to mm, extract, so to speak. I don't like that word, but be able to draw from what the physical body's model is and apply it to more aspects of self so that we can listen, understand self-exploration, self-growth, self-knowledge. Yeah.
That it's blowing my mind because I work with new witches, baby witches, and that term even, baby witch, is exactly like what you're talking about, like baby in the spiritual realm. And I see that. I see that drop off. People will, about 2 years into it, be like, I just don't feel the magic anymore.
It's my theory. I say that the reason that that happens is because spirit started asking them to take responsibility and stopped tying their shoes, so to speak, or stopped responding so quickly to all of their needs and stopped spoon feeding them. Spirit was like, okay, now it's time for you to walk. Now it's time for you to stand up. Now it's time for you to believe in your magic. And that's where a lot of them drop off. And honestly, I think that it would be very good for me to express what gives me the right to actually make that statement. I actually was raised by spiritual leaders. I come from a long line of spiritual leaders. When I was born, my father, Reverend of the Christian faith, and my mother, Reverend as well, but they didn't call her that because 1970.
Yeah.
And I literally, from the moment that I was born, was what they would call the one who is called to carry the torch. So I was trained in being a spiritual leader when I was very, very small, how to walk, how to talk, what to look at, how to be in community. What does that mean? And so I've been observing this for a long time. If that's not good enough for you people, I don't know, I just play. No, but that's why I feel that I have the right. It's not just something I thought of overnight. I've been bearing witness. Actually, if you want to be honest, I remember when I started realizing the overlay of spiritual path, physical growth, spiritual maturity, maturity. I was in the eighth grade in a science class bored. Sorry, teacher. I was thinking about, I don't know, the divine. And and he was talking about, actually, I wasn't bored. He was talking about evolution. And I was like, oh, you're talking about physical evolution. I wonder how that transposes to spiritual evolution. Now, in the eighth grade, what are you, like 12?
I know, I'm thinking, what a weird eighth grader in a good way. But
I
like,
was a very weird.
I taught eighth graders. They're not usually thinking about that. So,
Yeah, that's where I was. That's where I was. I didn't pass my secular classes, but I sure did well in the spiritual aspects.
yeah, but that makes so much sense. I've talked about this before in our coven too. Like, if you go through some kind of spiritual change, upgrade, evolution, I often will get physically sick afterwards.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's like, I feel like that's my body purging something and catching up with whatever other growth I've made. And I found this correlation happen time and time again. And so what you're saying is like, this makes perfect sense to me because you can't disconnect it all.
Wow. You can pretend that the connection doesn't exist, but they all dance with each other. And you are absolutely right. And let me tell you how I see them dancing with each other. So, the four bodies of existence, we have the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And I look at it and I describe it like a Stradivarius, an expensive, authentic violin. And if you were to separate this Stradivarius, this violin, into four aspects, the body, the strings, the little prongs, and then the bow, if you disconnect them all, what music would it play? It wouldn't play anything.
Right.
So the more that we understand that they are connected, the more music that we play. But you're absolutely right, Jenny, because and I've noticed that too, a spiritual growth, something happened. It's almost like one of the bodies is like, okay, now we're vibrating at a different level. We see things from a different way. And the physical body's like, wait, what? Usually it's the
Yeah,
physical body that, because of the density in the third dimension, that takes the longest to process. But you're absolutely right. That happens. So, as I agree with you 100%, it's kind of like, oh, I went through an awakening. How sick are you this time? How strong was
exactly.
it this time?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've seen it with lots of people. Something I like about your book is I would say it's like a current trend with n nonfiction where someone blends spiritual wisdom, science or psychology, some kind of like fact that we can tie them to, and then personal experience. And I feel like it's the perfect trifecta. Like another book that does that is Braiding Sweetgrass, and another one that does that is Mary Magdalene Revealed. And so reading this, I'm like, I love that we have this because that's how we as humans, I think, learn. We learn from story, someone's personal story. We learn from the facts, and then we love this. We want the spiritual guidance. That's maybe why we picked up the book. So what I'm curious about is like, how did you decide to do that? And also, you share some very personal stories. How did you also decide that that was the time and it was okay to do that?
Honestly, it was hard and I needed to get pushed. I knew that that was the model. I wanted to strengthen the mind of the left hemisphere scientific linear thinking side of all of us. I wanted to include the spirituality to help us. But then I also was like, I need to bring this home so that people understand what it actually looks like in practice. I want to put myself out there as an example so that whether you can identify directly or indirectly with my story, it does come a lot with thoughts and confusion and loss and what do we do here? And ultimately, like self-reclamation. Um, it was really hard. Maybe that's why it took me so long. One of the things that I was waiting for is for spirit to say it is time. And spirit finally said it is time. And I wrote all of those personal stories and got really sick,
Wow.
purged a lot. So I won't go into much detail. Of course, you could tease it out of me. I'm an open book, right? But at the end of the day, it took me it hit my nervous system so hardcore. My body intellect was shocked that I was sharing this information. My DNA was freaking out because I talk about, my the plight of my father being full-blood Navajo and his culture taken away and him put into boarding school. Yeah, it hit my nervous system and I almost went blind. I'll just cut to the
Tell
chase.
that story. Tell that story.
Okay. Um, I got shingles
Wow.
on my face
Wow.
and in my eye.
Oh my gosh.
And it was the most horrific pain. I wanted to throw my head through like a concrete wall in order for it to feel better. And I was up in the middle of the night, like my body was awake, just wandering around. And then I'd finally wake up going, why am I wandering around? And the pain was excruciating until one day I looked up. I was sitting at my dining room table and my husband was across from me and I just couldn't do it anymore. And I looked up and I said, help. And I had a tear fall down. And this energy came over me. The pain that was at 500
Mm.
left. And I just sat there and I was like, it's gone. And my husband, who can bear witness, I was like, what happened? He said, your ancestors just showed up.
Mm.
And so I knew, and so here's even more. The the that's a derivative of chicken pox.
Yeah.
Pox,
Yes.
Native American
Yeah.
pox. My body went and it hit your nervous system. Anyway, my eye is fine now. I still actually have a little bit of pink.
Wow.
Yeah, it hit my core. It hit my core. I didn't know I'd be sharing that with you guys today, but yeah, it hit my core. It hit my DNA. It hit my body. It hit my nervous system. It moved the pox out, and that was at the end of last year. And I'm fine ever since. So yeah, I went through a death of sorts in order
Yes.
to share this with everybody. So, and I'm happy about that.
That's amazing. And amazing too, like your husband's insight that, yeah, it's definitely, I was thinking when you're telling the story, I'm thinking it's ancestors saying, share, share.
What it
You're
was.
doing our work, you're sharing because from my understanding, I think it was until the 1970s, it was illegal for Native Americans to actually share about their spiritual practice and get published.
Probably. You would know. I just kind of didn't get published until I did. So,
Yeah, yeah, because we have books like Black Elk Speaks, where he's not actually getting money from the book or writing, he's being interviewed. And so I think that that's what, from my understanding, that it was like either they were just not allowed to, like actual laws, or it's just kind of like people weren't publishing. I don't know, because there aren't any books for like a long time until really feels like the 1980s we start to get some things like from Jamie Sams and stuff, but really felt like nothing. People were anthropologists were sharing as if it was their own.
yes, they would study different culturals, indigenous culture. And I really appreciate, you, Jenny, because, sharing that because I think that even hits it more to the point why this book published by North Atlantic Books, Call Out, is is not just about Granddaughter Crow. It is about Indigenous philosophy. It is about spirituality, but it's also about cultural studies. And it does, if you look at it from that lens, as far as an Indigenous person writing their Indigenous stories and sharing their Indigenous stories, which is also a hot topic, that it is here. So no wonder I got the pock, got the pock out of me. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, it's wild. Let's talk about that a little bit because you and I have had some conversations about this, about how I've shared certain things with you on TikTok or social media, and your response is, "Oh, I guess it's cool to be native now." And it's like interesting. So if you're listening and you're a younger person and you're like, well, what do you mean? Like, can you explain growing up like 1970s, 1980s, the difference for the younger audience that is seeing like it's, native people on TikTok. There's like a whole native TikTok kind of genre and people love them and they're sharing their stories and they're like they have lots of followers that are non-native and like people are, learning and open to learning. That's new, is it
That
not?
is very new. It's very new, and I am loving it because you can't kill the spirit of people. It will come back, even if you want to erase their culture. So, for those younger people who this is like the first time you're hearing it, I'm Granddaughter Crow. I was born in 1970. My father is full-blood Navajo, was full-blood Navajo when he walked the earth. Now he's just a superstar, right? And then my mother is full-blood Dutch. And so I come from both worlds. I come from two worlds, and that is beneficial, but it's also very isolating because which one do you belong to? And so being raised in the 1970s and the 80s, there was probably, let's see, in high school, finally, when I got to high school, I think there was probably 2,000 people in the school or maybe my class. It was huge. And I was like one of three or four Indigenous Navajo people there. And one of them was my older sister. So yeah,
Yeah.
so it people I tried to look white and people like I did not like my facial features because what was told back then was that being Indigenous meant that you were savage or closer to the animal kingdom, which now is cool.
Yeah.
I'm like, make up your mind, people. But nevertheless, yeah, I started realizing people are like, oh my God, you're Indigenous. And I'm like, yeah, I've always been this way. And I'm like, now it's cool. And then it's just a different world. And so be you, people. Be who you are. If you are authentic, it actually, whether you're around the people who appreciate it now or in the future, be you. Because now I'm selling books because I'm Indigenous, when back in the day, I wouldn't have been accepted into going into places because of that. I would have been made fun of because of the shape of my nose. I don't know. People always like the darkness of my eyes, but that's probably just something people say. But side note. But anyway, it is something that it's the same thing with a lot of quote unquote other groups
Hmm.
that it wasn't okay to be this until now. I mean, let's go there. It wasn't okay to be female.
Right.
So there's a lot of when you kind of look at it from that point of view, and then you kind of look at me and you go, well, she's only in her mid 50s. How did so much history happen so quickly in her lifetime? And I'm just grateful. And if it be that I actually had some part of a decision to be here now, that's probably one of the reasons why, is because I wanted to be here, seeing what it was like to have the Navajo people be accepted and actually cherished in a lot of communities when before they were literally trying to erase them. So,
Yes. And I think that I remember just a few years ago, people sharing about the boarding schools. And I remember like other people who I thought were educated being like, wow, I had no idea our country did this. And it's like, and then I realized like, no, people really didn't know. Like history gets erased. And I mean, if people think back to their middle school, high school education, how much did you learn about Native Americans?
Right,
If at all. Like you
right.
might have just learned about some wars. But like if at all did they learn? And it's just yeah, it's the world is changing. Like I social media definitely has its fault flaws. But things like this where we can get someone else's voice out there that maybe normally wouldn't have been on television,
Yeah,
right? Not everybody share. I just, like for the younger audience, like not all the Native American people were Cher, where Cher was actually out there and like probably like one of the only celebrities I can think of in the 70s having her song like Half Breed and being out there and open about being Native American. I can't think of anybody else really.
I know. I absolutely, well, Pocahontas. I'm just playing. That was horrible.
Yeah, that
But we are
cartoon. Yeah.
associated with Pocahontas.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so it really, it really was difficult to get this book out there. My publishing company took a lot of
Yeah, let's talk about that. I found that you t shared about that, and that's a very interesting process.
the first time that this has happened, and this is one of my books, and this is the first time it happened, was they asked another indigenous person who had degrees in cultural studies and had the blood to be able to review this book to see if there was any cultural appropriation or some wisdom that should not be spoken, because
Wow.
I get that. And they signed off. This, you read this book, you do this, it is not cultural appropriation. I am not sharing something that you couldn't eventually find. It's just so it happens that it is Navajo, and not all Navajos think in this way. My body thinks in this way. My lineage thinks in this way. And so it's one of those things. And so yeah, it is very sensitive,
Yeah.
culturally sensitive. So that's another reason why it took so long for the book to come out, is that we literally had an educator of Indigenous studies who also has Indigenous blood review the book and see if there was anything that may or may not be shared or that would be difficult, and there wasn't. And so now the book is in your hands in May of 2026.
Yeah, so that's like when people in the spiritual community talk about closed practice. So just in case you're listening and you're like, what does she mean? So there are certain things in just different forms of spirituality. It's not just in indigenous culture, it could be in hoodoo and voodoo. There's just certain things that are called closed practice, which means that it is only for the people that have been initiated or only for the people who are born into the culture for them to use. And what you're saying is, what you've shared is open practice. It's for
Yes.
anyone.
Yes. I love
Yeah.
that. That's a great way to say it. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, because I'm sure since we're talking about like representing the Navajo, right? I'm sure that's like a lot of pressure because what you're saying is you're this is what you think, but you are Navajo. It's like you can't in this day and age, it's like you can't separate it. Not that you ever could, but you really can't when you stand up with a book like this. You're now like saying, I'm part of this culture, not that you denied it before. I'm part of this culture, and this is that culture has shaped my viewpoint.
Yes.
Right. And that takes, I feel like, a lot of courage because there can be people that go, well, I'm Navajo and I don't agree with that.
Absolutely. And there will be.
Yeah.
Look to the comments. I'm sure there will be. But you know what? I appreciate that because it's more than courage. It is my DNA screaming to free the people like my dad
Yes.
from being taken from the Hogan. He was born in 1932. He was taken from the Hogan, put into residential schools. His hair was cut. They gave him a white man name. Sorry, I'm getting
No,
this.
go for it.
This is why the book is out. It's not just courage, it's it's not resilience, it's liberation.
Yeah. It's
It's there's
ancestral healing.
it's very, very much. And I dedicated this book to my father. And actually, as I was writing this book, he crossed over. And I think a part of me was waiting for him to cross over so that, you know, so that I could, so that he wouldn't have to answer for what I'm saying in a weird way. I don't know if that
That
translates,
makes sense.
but yeah. And so, and his spirit comes to me and I'm like, now we can do it. So it's more than courage. It's self-reclamation, liberty, justice.
Justice.
Yeah.
It's like justice for those who died,
Yes.
and who there's a lot that died in those schools, and I think people don't understand. We don't even have numbers, but so many people, so many children went to those schools and did not return, and their families got nothing, no condolences, nothing. And so I feel like reading this book and seeing you share these stories, it's justice for all of those unnamed people, and a lot of them were in mass graves by these schools who did not get their proper burial. It's justice, and it's beautiful because it's like you can only do this now. This couldn't have been done in the 30s. This book could
Right.
not have been written and put out in that time period.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Now is the time for Hózhõ to enter the world. And it has a spirit of its own.
Obviously.
It has a spirit of its own.
Yeah.
And I think it's here for cleansing. And I think that if you pick up the book and you want to learn about the concepts of Hózhõ, four bodies of existence, I call it Hózhõ because Hózhõ means balance and harmony. But I do want to clarify that if you hear Hózhõ, it doesn't mean the four bodies of existence.
Yeah.
It'd be like if I'm going to share a certain how to meditate and I call the book Zen, it doesn't mean that everything that is Zen means to be this. So Hoshan is this harmony and balance, and being able to write this book and share the wisdom is it's you can pick it up to look at the wisdom. You can apply the wisdom. You can look at it from a cultural studies background.
Yeah.
You can look at it just as almost like an autobiography to a short extent. I don't write everything that it has happened, but at the end of the day, there's so many different ways that you can look at this book. And it goes beyond just spirituality. It goes into more psychology, philosophy, sociology, Indigenous studies. Yeah.
Well, even I was excited that it's from North Atlantic Books because they publish so many really cool academic books from, like really specific voices that maybe you've never heard of, but, you didn't get in your history class and you can fill in the gaps. So it was like, even just having them as a publisher, it's got a different feel, a different vibe, that it is very academic. One of the things I found really fun or like interesting is you talk about archetypes. Yeah, so you have like a whole section on archetypes, and then what follows that is a section on the zodiac signs. Can you explain a little bit about like your viewpoint of archetypes and why those are important to understand, and then how they connect to the zodiac?
Absolutely. So, at the beginning, the first half of the book is about the four bodies of existence. And then the second half of the book is about your internal narrative, the narrative that constantly plays in the back of our mind, subconscious mind. Sometimes we recognize it and all of that. And being able to recognize this, I take us through steps on how to recognize what this internal narrative is, what is its position, and then ultimately change it if you so choose to live a purpose-filled life on purpose. So, in talking about the internal narrative, I decided to branch out beyond the Navajo thinking and help. This is my Dutch side, right? To
Yeah.
help people to identify what their internal narrative might be. So, like the archetypes would be, oh, I'm a teacher. Oh, I'm a thief or whatever. I forgot all the archetypes right now, but it's like I am a hero. I am, and the roles that we identify with in our narrative.
Yeah, and then you talk about how you can be all of those roles at some point, which I really liked, and how you can switch back and forth because I think that's helpful in like our own journey. We're talking about like really this book is about how to live Hózhõ,
Yes.
how
Yes.
to how to live in harmony and balance. And it's like, okay, like this is my way of doing this, but then you offer lots of ways. So it's like if, this way doesn't work, maybe it helps you to think about archetypes because if you've never really studied archetypes, highly recommend it to people because it can be really empowering to go, "Oh, like right now I'm really leaning into the role of the hero."
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And then translating that over to another model of the astrology and the
Yeah.
12, zodiac signs. And that is just yet another model that if that makes more sense to you, if you understand Taurus versus Scorpio or Capricorn versus, Cancer, all of those types of, the astrology, if that makes more sense to your brain, then you can look at it through there. So I kind of give a couple of different models to be able to help an individual kind of understand, oh, my archetype right now is the hero's journey. And it's very interesting because I heard that my moon sign is in Leo and a lion. Maybe I'm going to, there's endless being able to, put those pairs together, but it really kind of gives a little bit more depth in the self-reflection. It gives more of a foundation that is more commonly thought of so that this isn't just alien. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels approachable
Yeah.
and very inclusive, because different people are going to pick up the book for different reasons and they're going to be in different places in their life and different ages. You also talk about the different generations. So if you wouldn't mind sharing what generation you are and if you feel like that affects you and how does it affect you?
Absolutely. That's one of the things that I love is keeping track of like social things, right? And generations is one of those things that I really love, especially that I'm getting older, right? Because now I can see them. When
Yeah.
I was young, when I was young, I was just like, hey, I'm just a cool kid, you know? But as I get older, I'm like, oh, there are different things. And so one of the reasons why I put this in the book is because my father was born to the silent generation. And I wanted to help people understand that that is a part of it, that he was silenced, not just because of the Navajo Nation, that he was almost killed because of that, but he was silenced, as many of us were. And then they gave birth to the baby boomers, and then they gave birth to, actually, not gave birth, but the next one comes the Generation X. Now, I'm of Gen X. Whoop whoop. I love it. A lot of people call us the lost generation because I don't know. They do. I'm here, but I love it because the Gen X is like we're older than Google, you know, but a lot of us are.
Big
It's
deal.
just fun to
Big
say.
deal.
I was born in the 1900s, I mean, it gives me this, but that's the time of the latchkey kids. That's the time where all of a sudden you have two parents and you have to raise yourself. Now, I
Mm.
didn't have to raise myself. My mother was always home. However, my mother was very, very ill.
Oh,
And so at the age of, by 12 years old, I was the youngest, but I was taking care of my sister and my mother. When my dad would go down to the reservation, my dad would literally say, Little Joy Joy, you take care of your mom and your sister. And so I'd go out, I'd shovel the lawn, I'd make sure, or shovel the lawn, I'd shovel the snow here in Colorado. I'd make sure we had the groceries. I'd go and shovel and make money to pay the electric bill. I was an extremely responsible little girl. And then all of a sudden you have the other generations, and now we have the wonderful Gen Zs and the Alphas and the millennials. Hello, all of these. And I love thinking in that way because being born in a generation isn't just that you're a certain age. It means that you have certain societal things that impact you, such as the internet or a second parent going to work, or more understanding around neurodivergency. And there's so much more, and so there's more that shapes societal things. And so as a Gen X, I always think it's cool. I don't know, maybe that's one of our attributes that we just think we're cool or something. But I love kind of talking about it from that point of view because it helps an individual when they're doing self-exploration consider the external societal influences that may have impact and shaped who they are now, the way that they think and the way that they move around in the world. So,
Yeah, I love that. I feel like you're right. Gen X is known as like lost or whatever, but for the most part, Gen X was very responsible from a very young age.
very
Like
much.
that's a very common theme for them. And so it's not, we don't need to use the term old soul, but it's like they've all been working since they were 12, like you.
Oh yeah. And that's why it's kind of funny because then we throw down this sarcasm and we are like tough as nails in a lot
Yeah.
of different ways that we're just like whatevers. And it's really funny because until the pandemic came, that's when I started watching social media more, and all of a sudden I started finding the Gen X people, and I was like, I thought that only happened to me.
Yeah.
You mean you had that experience too? And I found community. And if I can find community, on social media, then, anybody can, you know?
Yeah, yeah, agreed. Um, for people that are like interested in like having a more harmonious, balanced life, right? Trying to live Hózhõ today, right? If they could just do something today, they could take away and be like, I'm going to try this and help them feel just a little better throughout the day. What could they do?
I love that because so many things come into my mind. I think the first thing to do is awareness.
Mm,
If you sit with the awareness that maybe my emotions aren't something in my head that I just need to think my way out of. Maybe they actually live within me as a body, and maybe they have something to say. And maybe I'll give them time to express themselves. And or my mind, maybe my mind with its intrusive thoughts or the neurodivergent or ADHD or however your mind works, or the understanding identifiers that you have with your thinking, maybe not just think about it like that, but think about it as a body that
mm,
actually needs, it's going to, whatever it eats, it's going to put out. And so feed it good stuff. Yeah, there's a lot going on right now in the world.
yeah.
But make sure that you eat your vegetables, guys. Listen to the podcast, read good books, put some food in there, and also with a spiritual body. And so if you could take a moment and step outside, if you can, wherever you are, and inhale and feel the wind or the sun or the rain or whatever's happening on your physical body, and then be aware that that's happening to your emotional body is there too, and ask your emotional body how it feels to
Mm,
be outside. Is it happy? Does it feel like relaxed? Is it exhaling? And mind you, they don't all speak English. A lot of emotions come in waves or they come in impressions. And so give them their language. And then with the mind, kind of just allow your mind to settle down and watch where it goes in that beautiful outside, and embody your spirit within that. The awareness, I think, would be the first step. The second step, buy Hózhõ and read it.
heck yeah. And it's available for pre-order right now?
It it is available for pre-order. Also, wonderful news. And Jenny, you have been the one that has been walking this path with me through all of its journeys and whatnot. I actually am the one who did the audiobook. I'm narrating the audiobook. That too is going to be available May 5th. The same day that the book releases. So if you want to hear me talk about the four bodies of existence, if you want to hear, or read along, you will be able to hear it in my own voice, in my own tone. There are some Navajo words in there that you'll be
That's
able
what's
to
nice.
pick up on.
Yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, pre-order now.
And
Pre-order
I
now.
got to hear a sample of the audio. It's beautiful. When you
Thank
told
you.
me you were going to do the audio, I was excited because I think you have a lovely voice. That's part of why
Thank
you have a
you.
podcast and people listen, right? It's soothing. Your voice is very like soothing and calming. And so I got to hear a sample already. I'm very very lucky. And it sounds lovely. Like it's really, and I think yeah, with the words, like certain words for people are new, but also because you have the journal questions and the exercises, the audio is really cool for that because then I can hear you tell me the question, I can pause you, I can just write, and then I can turn it on again and write, and then I can do the exercises with you guiding me. Like that's really cool. I'm excited for that.
It was a new rodeo, and I want to just call out to talkingbooks.org. They were my remote studio to help me do that. So anybody who wants, go check them out. They love indie writers and
Wow.
authors, and they will work with you. Love them. Tell them Granddaughter Crow sent you, just because I want to say hi, because they have Pumpkinhead, which is an orange kitty. You can find them on the website. If you go to talkingbooks.org, look for Pumpkinhead. That is their mascot. And I got to see Pumpkinhead and work with Pumpkinhead, and it's just great. And I also really want to call out to North Atlantic Books. Their team is absolutely amazing. They were very, very supportive in what we were doing and how to do what we were doing. And it was a really, really wonderful, wonderful experience.
Yeah, it seems like such a thoughtful group of people that you worked with. Like to think about, let's pull in another person and have them look this over. And like, that's amazing to me. That's so thoughtful. And I feel like that gives it like a better birth. It's like you had like a couple midwives.
I did. It's honestly, it's irritating when you're in it. It's like, come on. But then when it's all done, I'm like, thank you guys. You knew what you were doing, you
Yeah.
know?
In
So yeah,
hindsight.
in
Yeah.
hindsight, I'm
I'm
like,
not
oh,
super patient, so I would have been like, ah,
well, so I was like, come on.
yeah. Okay, so you have quite a few books now. So I have a question for you. If I have not read any of your books, I'm new. Give me what you think is the order that I should read your books in. It's quite a dropping a bomb right now.
Oh, I love it. I guess my question is, okay, okay,
I'm gonna read them all.
okay.
Like we're gonna pretend like I'm just like I got them all. I'm like I want to really dive deep. What's the order? What would you say? Like start with this one and then go to this one. Like do you feel like there's a little bit of a flow there?
I do. I do. And the reason why I'm hesitating, Jenny, is because Shamanism for Beginners by Granddaughter Crow, Llewellyn will drop January 2027.
Exciting, exciting.
And so I'm like, do I include that book or not?
Let's
So
include it. Let's include it.
I
I'm
actually
excited for that book. Really, really excited for that book.
So, what I would say is first pick up Wisdom of the Natural World, Spiritual and Practical Teachings from Plants, Animals, and Mother Earth. It is one that will help you to begin to remember that we are the natural world and how to work with the natural world in order to bring insight into your day-to-day stuff, like your relationships and romance, your health and well-being, your business and finance. Wisdom of the Natural World. The next book that I would say is A Shamanism in Your Shadow, because that is going to go, okay, well, let's take this wisdom of the natural world. Let's do some shadow work. And the shamanism in your shadow is kind of it's definitely another workbook. It does talk about how to approach shadow work from a shamanistic point of view. So you guessed it, there are animals in there are landscapes in there are times of day, and we have the wonderful raven, and we have the snake, and we have the owl, and we have the wolf, and those will be your shamans as you walk through your shadow work. So that one is something. I would also say that then you pick up Hózhå. Then you
Mm,
pick up Hózhå, because Hózhå is going to be less about this is how to work with the natural world, and this is more about this is how I am going to do balance within me. So, wisdom of the natural world starts on the outside,
mhm.
and then you get through some shadow work, and then all of a sudden you find Hózhå. Of course, pick up Belief Being and Beyond wherever you can. It's the name of this podcast. It talks about we what you believe in constitutes how you behave in the world, but there's always something more. It helps deconstruct harmful belief systems. It helps you to heal from trauma, belief trauma, and helps you to regain your own independence. And then if you want, it's just fun. This one is my first little baby. The it's like yeah, the journey of the soul, the path of the medicine person. I self-published this. You probably could read it in, oh, I don't know, an hour and a half, depending on how fast or slow of a reader you are. And it really just is talking, it's more like taking a class. It talks about the upper world, the middle world, and the lower world. So, but then we've got the new book. I mean, come on, Jenny,
Ah,
this is a hard question because I'm like, how
I
many
know.
babies do I have?
You have
And
a
so
lot of babies.
and so then when you're there, if you're like, oh wait, I really can pick up a lot of this gentle external world. Shamanism is helping me with my shadow. Now I know how to live in Hózhå. And it's like, oh, did you want to learn shamanism?
Yeah.
Because now you're ready. I mean, you can
Yes,
pick up shamanism for beginners at any point,
for sure.
but this makes you more prepared for being able to look at the world through healing. You already connected with the natural world, you've done shadow work, you've balanced inside, and now you're ready to go.
I feel like what we just did was built a college syllabus on Granddaughter Crow,
Yes.
right? It's like how you would read, you have your assigned reading and how the order they go in, you buy all your books. That's what we just did. So if someone's really wanting, they really resonate with what you say here and they really want to connect with you, like we just gave you the order. Like, I love this. This is very exciting, I think.
And you know the beauty around that, and thank you for that, Jenny, because when you said this is like a college course, I'm like, oh, actually, this year in 2026, Shamanism with Granddaughter Crow. Each of my books, I'm walking through them for 6 weeks
Yes.
on Zoom, online. You can sign up. Price is very affordable. You get a discount on the book. First, we're rolling out Shamanism and Your Shadow. By the time this airs, class has already begun. But Hózhå, right? That's coming out
Yeah.
in June.
Tell us about
So
that.
if you want to walk through Hózhå with me, the author, and for 6 weeks, there's more information, www.granddaughtercrow.com. And also, I'll be walking people through wisdom of the natural world, and I will be walking people through shamanism for beginners. And then we'll see where it goes because I've got a whole year's worth of online classes just for you if you enjoy, walking through books with authors and doing the journal prompts with somebody else.
Yeah, and I want to point out these are live, and you're going to be interacting with students because a lot of authors, we don't do live classes. A lot of people have classes, but they're so can you talk about that a little bit more?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great point. So if you do sign up or register for a class, then you can do so on my website. You will start getting more information. And then every day, not every Sunday on Zoom, we get together and I walk with you. I give a lesson plan for about 45 minutes based on the book and how we're moving through. And then we shut off the cameras, and all of a sudden, you get one-on-one time. Well, class time. You get to answer, I'll answer questions. You are in a class setting, and we get to just kind of grow together. So, yeah, it's not
So it's
just,
really like a combo of reading the book, of learning more in depth on the book, but also like this almost one-on-one
yes,
chatting, counseling, understanding with you and other people going through it, which is super powerful. Like the power of like live connection and live class like that is huge for people, I think.
And I was talking to someone who was looking forward to starting the class, saying, picked up, for example, Shamanism in Your Shadow last year when it came out, and I kept saying, oh, I'll do that exercise later.
Yeah.
And now you kind of have to show that accountability, and they really appreciate being able to go, well, I better do that homework now because Granddaughter Crow is going to ask me about it. So it makes it's that community and that accountability. And for the fast readers out there, it might be that discipline to slow down and actually do the work, as well as read it fast and hand it off to your local library. Love libraries.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really exciting. I know someone in our coven signed up and it's going to be, and it's a special opportunity. I don't know of many other authors that do that. And your books are very hands-on and there are exercises and things to be done. So to have you there to lead that is really exciting, I think, for people.
It's the same voice that asked me to write the books, asked me to teach the books.
Mhm.
And I don't know what that voice is. It could be mine, it could be spirit, it could be my ancestors, but the same voice that asked me to write the books asked me to teach the books. And so that's what I'm going to be doing over the next year. And then we'll see what the voice tells me to do next. Don't
Yeah.
send this to your psychologist.
No.
What the voice will tell me to do next.
Yeah, we'll just isolate that clip and share that on social media. Okay, so we were talking before the show, and we were
Yeah.
like, the name of the podcast. What if you had a closing question sometimes? And what if that question goes with the name? And the question is, what do you think lies beyond?
Ah,
And that could be like really open to interpretation. So,
oh yeah.
what do you think lies beyond?
Infinite, unlimited potential, love, energy, life, and wander.
Hmm.
What lies beyond makes me curious, even though I've never seen it. I haven't seen it yet. It's this exploration of being a wanderer. It's an exploration of being curious. And although I spoke of your spiritual age and all of that, I'm not suggesting that you need to be all, oh, I'm so old spiritually. Actually, spiritually, the older I get, the more childlike I get,
Mm.
the more playful I get, and the
Yeah.
more I want to know what is beyond is something that, I mean, we are actually recording this at the same time that we saw the backside of the moon, the same week that we saw the backside of the moon. So I would say the backside of the moon is one of those things that's beyond. It's there, but we just haven't seen it yet. So infinite wisdom, beauty, strife, hard times, journeys, life, death, rebirth, everything lies beyond the mystery void.
Beautiful. Well, on that note, thank you for letting me take over your podcast today. I had a lot of fun hosting.
You know what, Jenny? I gotta say thank you so much because I just had a brilliant idea. Would you mind like co-hosting with me? Because I bring the Granddaughter Crow, but you bring this you have a degree in literature and you bring, all of this. groundedness. I think if you and I got together and maybe co-hosted, is that too much? I think it would be wonderful.
I feel, yeah. So for people that don't know, we're actually the same Chinese sign, zodiac sign.
Yep.
And you're a Cancer and I'm a Cancer rising.
Yes.
So, and we both have Gemini suns, like
I
not
have both. Oh,
son,
yeah.
but like literal child.
That was born in the year of the goat.
Yes, and they're both goats. So we have all these fascinating like similarities. And so yeah, I feel like we get along and but we're different enough that that could be
Yes.
really fun. And on my own podcast, I don't interview people. It's just like a I would almost call it like a journal, really, is what my podcast is. So it would be fun to get back into interviewing people again.
I would absolutely love it. You heard it here first. You heard it here, people first, people, right? You heard I'm getting tired. My tongue is meh. You heard it here first. Jenny
You
C.
heard it
Bell
here.
is going to be joining A Belief Being and Beyond as a co-host, helping us to explore more from different points of view. We have a list of creators, authors, creators from a lot of different sources. Stay tuned. Belief Being and Beyond 2.0 Beyond Podcast.
Yes. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening and watching. And don't forget to pre-order your book,
Perfect.
Hózhõ.
Thank you.